Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's session, where we'll be talking about how to enable self-service for Microsoft 365 Workspaces without compromising governance. I'm Beatriz Oliveira. I'm the founder and CEO at BindTuning. If you are here, probably it's because you're feeling stuck in between two bad options. Either you are manually creating every workspace yourself, or you have teams and sites creation out of control. So in either case, this webinar is for you. And today I'll show you that there is a third option, one where employees can actually request what they need through the tools that they already know, while IT can truly enforce governance and rules every single time automatically. Okay, just a little housekeeping before we get started. Make sure to use the chat for questions or just raise your hand. This session is being recorded and the recording will be available after the session. Just a little bit about me, let you know that I'm not only passionate about what I do, but I'm really passionate about empowering other people, empowering people in tech, in business, in life. And really, this is what the core of BindTuning is about. For the last 13 years, we've been empowering you and many like you to make the most out of your Microsoft 365 investments through the best provisioning and governance tools and highly customizable intranet solutions. So if you want to learn more about BindTuning, please check us out at bindtuning.com or app.bindtuning.com. Let me just keep admitting. So Kevin, if you can help me out and admit people that are at the lobby, that would be amazing. Okay, so let's proceed. Without further ado, we have a full agenda for the next 30 minutes. We'll start with talking about what the problem is, and why manually provisioning teams, sites, etc., breaks down when we're talking about scale, and why most organizations just keep self-service turned off. We'll then move on to talking about the solution, what governed self-service actually looks like in practice, and we will go deep down into a few topics. I'll talk about the different channels through which employees typically request sites and teams. I will talk about various help desk integrations. What are templates in the context of provisioning? And I'll talk about a couple approval models that you can use when using BindTuning, and why you should care about what we call workspace integrity. Then the fun part, we have a little demo, and we'll show you everything working end to end. So let's get started with the problem. All right, there we go. In most organizations, this is how it plays. Someone needs a team, someone needs a SharePoint site or a group. And basically, they submit a ServiceNow ticket or a Jira issue, or they just send a message in chat or an email to IT help desk. And then what happens? An IT admin picks it up and manually creates the workspace. At best, they will have a PowerShell script, and everything is done one by one every single time. So there is no standard process. The request for marketing will look completely different from the one that's coming from engineering. And some of the information you need is there, some is not, and every request is different. So here's the thing. Most IT teams have actually considered automating self-service, but they've sort of rejected it because the risk is too high, let's face it. If you let everyone create workspaces freely, you start getting sprawl, you lose control. So IT just sits in the middle manually for every request. And it means that IT becomes the bottleneck. So what are the consequences? Well, they really start building up quickly. The bigger ones: sprawl, This is like the first, you start getting duplicate teams and sites. They get created because nobody can find the one that already exists. Projects, and the workspace just sits there through time. Over time, you accumulate hundreds of abandoned, orphaned workspaces. Um, Second, you start having governance gaps. So without standard processes, what happens is that naming gets inconsistent. There are no sensitivity labels applied. Some workspaces have owners, others suddenly don't. There's no way to enforce policies, and everything is kind of handled differently. The third problem, IT becomes the bottleneck itself. So your IT team is stuck reacting to whatever is happening. Every hour you spend manually creating workspaces means that you're losing 1 hour that you could be investing in strategic initiatives. And so at the same time, users are waiting days for something that should take minutes. Lastly, shadow IT, right? So when users get frustrated, what do? They go and find alternatives, right? So they start using the technology, the software that isn't approved by the organization outside the visibility of IT, and you start having a parallel IT in your organization. But the cost of having this model is not just about IT's time. The cost is way broader than that. For IT, you're constantly in firefighting mode, manually provisioning, constant cleanup projects, tons of audits and trying to fix non-compliant workspaces. And your team is doing work that should be automated. For the users, the users, they're just there waiting, right? Sometimes days. The project that kicked off last Monday, well, probably the workspace won't be ready until next Thursday. The deadlines are being missed, and the work never gets started for real. Lastly, for security and compliance, well, you have all those orphans workspaces with no owner, rogues permissions that suddenly need to be set on a rush, and all the missing labels and problems with confidential data. So every single one of these problems is actually a liability. It's a risk. So the real cost is not IT's time. It's really the organizational velocity, it's the security, it's the user satisfaction, and all is being hit. So what if I tell you that self-service, so enabling those users directly and making that automated doesn't really need to mean chaos? What if you could actually automate without depending on those cumbersome PowerShell scripts that you can never change? All while still giving your employees the ability and freedom to request whatever they need, when they need, through the tools they know, while still maintaining that governance every single time. Well, that's exactly the proposition that we have for you. So here's the model. The model is simple, but it really changes everything. On the left, you have the user. So the user will request something. Employees will submit workspace requests through the channel they already use. So we're not saying that you need to change your processes. If they go to ServiceNow, they can still go. If they use Jira Forms, fine, that's awesome. If they use Microsoft Forms, that's awesome as well. So they can still use whatever channel, whatever is part of the workflows that are already defined for your organization, and they don't need to learn anything new. In the middle, you have Automate 365. Rather than the request that comes through that channel going to IT or going to a PowerShell script, you have Automate 365. This is the governance engine. So every request flows through it, and Automate 365 will apply the policies, it will route the approvals, it will select the right template, all automatically. The ticket data can be automatically also mapped into provisioning parameters. So the project name can become, let's say, the workspace name with naming conventions applied. And this is actually what we call dynamic content. And on the right, finally, at the end of the process, we get the output. So the output is a fully governed workspace, correctly named, properly labeled, with the right owner assignment, all the permissions set, all the structure in place, and what is best in minutes. So this is the difference in minutes. Users get the speed they need, IT gets the control it's looking for, and nobody has to compromise. So this is what we have running in production for BindTuning customers today. And let me be specific about the policies that are enforced in this process. So first, naming conventions. Every new workspace follows the patterns that you define. Sensitivity labels are applied. Classification is applied the moment the workspace gets created. Ownership, and this is huge, right? So no workspace gets ownerless, and we always make sure that you have the possibility to assign multiple owners from day one. Permissions and policies, rules, sharing policies, guest access, all the good stuff. And lastly, and this is super important, structure, because if we're really serious about these processes, we want to make sure that the templates that sustain the strategy, they align with the different processes within your organization. And this is the next step. So templates are really the foundation for this entire approach. This is where IT defines what looks right for each process. So that you never have to enforce anything manually again. So the template includes the definition of what is right about the workspaces that have to be created. The structure, the channels, the document libraries, the lists, the folders that you want to have, all the policies, naming conventions, labels, expiration rules, et cetera, and content. So you can also even repeat content, documents, pages, all sorts of resources. And so this is defined once and then created multiple times. Then what you want is really to let employees request these workspaces and request those templates through any channel that you currently have. And what's good about Automate 365 is that it supports multiple different channels, namely the ones you see here. So we support directly ServiceNow, we support Jira, we support requesting through SharePoint, through Teams, and through API, meaning that if you have other systems in your organization that you would like to connect to this system, you actually can. Whoops, sorry for this. And the critical point about all this really is consistency. So we want to make sure that everything is created, aligned with whatever was requested through these channels from the user. Then we have something that is also very important, which is the approval model that we make available. First, there is the possibility to define approvals inside Automate 365, and we'll see it in a minute during the demo. So requests that come through different channels, they can actually trigger Automate 365, and then inside the engine, we will trigger the proper approvals, or alternatively, you can have and use the approvals that you have already defined in your help desk system. So if you already have an approval flow defined, let's say in your ServiceNow, you can use that approval flow. And at the end of the flow, you can then call Automate 365 to start the provisioning process. Ultimately, just let you know and leave you a word about integrity before we jump into the demo. When in a tenant, in a Microsoft 365 tenant, when you have structure, when you have operations, when you have the end user experience all in balance, you have workspace integrity. So what we want here is that every new workspace in your tenant is born compliant, not fix it after the fact, compliant from the moment it is created, so that we can eliminate that cycle of remediation. So this is what we call proactive governance. This is what we give you with Automate 365 instead of reactively cleaning up. So we will go into the demo. Enough of slides. Well, actually, I have a couple more just to show you the scenario that I'll be talking to you about. I'll show you a fictitious company called Healthy Foods. And in Healthy Foods, we have an HR manager that is responsible for some processes related to HR. They run an HR portal, and the main responsibilities of the HR manager are really to organize corporate events and to onboard new employees. And our goal for today will be automating these processes, not changing how the HR manager already does things. So currently, to organize corporate events, the HR manager goes to the HR calendar, they add a new event to the calendar, but then they need to send an email to IT requesting the creation of a SharePoint site. Our goal for today, it will be automate this process so that every single addition to that calendar actually results in provisioning a new site automatically in SharePoint. At the same time, for the process of onboarding new employees, the HR manager typically goes to a form in ServiceNow. It's a new hire form. And the form currently triggers a request, again, to IT so that IT manually can create a new channel in Teams. And our goal for today, it will be automatically provisioning that channel. Okay, so we have our goal set for this session. Let me just quickly stop the sharing of the screen. Just 1 second here. Sorry, guys, because I'm not being able to do it. Please let me know if I think I stopped sharing, right? I want to switch to my other, thank you. I want to switch to my other screen. Great. Okay, so we have it. All right. Before we get started here, and let me move this around. Before we get started in BindTuning, let me just show you what I just mentioned. The HR manager has access to this portal. This is the HR portal, and inside it, they actually let me pull this down. They actually have a classic calendar, and this is the calendar to which they keep adding events, right? What we have done is we have created a template. So this is an example of what would be the ideal format for organizing an event in SharePoint. And in BindTuning, as I mentioned, we can have the concept of dynamic content, which with BindTuning and with Automate 365 has this type of representation. And you will see that this template site actually has multiple of these tokens, and these will be all replaced during provisioning, and you will see it as we go. Additionally, every single site that is created is going to be added to this hub. This events hub actually has a list of all the events here and all the event sites. And so our goal is not only to automatically provision the site, but also to make it happen here. So before we do it, let me just give you a quick overview of what BindTuning looks like. This is the BindTuning application. It gives you not only access to Automate 365, which we will explore today, but also to Pulse 365, our governance solution, and to Intranet, which is the highly customizable intranet solution that we have for SharePoint. But today we will explore Automate 365. So it has multiple different areas. The main one where you actually start your experience is by creating the templates that we talked about. I'm going to filter some of the templates. And the template creation experience is actually pretty simple and straightforward. It's a wizard sequence, and I'm not going to go directly here because I will show you one of the templates. So the one that sustains the event creation, and I'll show it to you directly here. So the template that has already been done, it's this PTHR events, and I'll edit the template to show you what's in it. So what we have here is a template that is based out of this healthy foods event template site. So basically, if I show you here, the template is created from an existing workspace, which is exactly the healthy foods event template. The structure that it inherits from the sample workspace, it's all the site pages, it gets all the lists and libraries, so all the good stuff is here so that it can be replicated at every individual provisioning. And it has a definition that says that every new site that is to be created based on this template will be associated automatically to the events hub that I just showed you. Not only that, but all the dynamic content has been automatically identified by Automate 365. So it knows that it has variables that can be replaced during provisioning. And then we have other things like, for example, naming conventions, namely every single new site that is to be created will have the prefix HR minus something. And so this is the flow. Actually, we also have an approval flow associated to this template that needs to take place. And for the sake of being easier, the approver will be actually me. So this template is then part of what we call an automation. And automations are provisioning processes that you can define with Automate 365 that tell you when to trigger the creation of a new site, team, etc., based out of one of those templates. So for that particular template, we also have here already created one automation called Create New Corporate Event that I will edit to show you the sequence. And basically this automation will be triggered whenever a new record is added, in this case, to the events list. So I'll show you here in the connection. So whenever something is added to the list, that is the calendar list for that site, and whenever the category is corporate event, because that's the only situation, the only type of event where we want the creation of a new site, whenever this happens, we will trigger the provisioning of the template BT HR events. Okay, so it's quite a simple process defining these automations. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but it is quite simple, and you have a lot of flexibility in defining exactly what you want. And if you want to connect these automations to other processes, you can do it as well by using the callback section in the end of this wizard. So if I am the HR manager, what I would do would be just come here and add a new event. And let's get that started. Okay, so let's say that it's Friday rest or Friday gathering. And this is going to happen on the 13th. This is fine. And it's going to be a corporate event. And I'm going to save it. So for the sake of simplicity. And it may take a couple seconds for it to trigger. So we will come back in a second to this list and see it running. And in the meantime, I'm going to switch to the onboarding a new employee process. And so for this other process, the organization has defined a different template. And this template is actually a very simple template. I'm not going to go and show the details. I'm just going to tell you it's this BT employee onboarding. And this BT employee onboarding has one very simple thing to replicate, which is a channel. I'm going to show you here in the context of my teams. There is a HR team. And in this HR team, the HR onboarding, and we already have multiple onboarding channels for different employees. There is one that is a very special channel, which is this one that also has variables with dynamic content, which is the example and the sample that is part of the template. This is the channel to be replicated on at every single time. But in this case, the HR manager goes to ServiceNow to make the triggering of the creation. So we have a connection here within Automate 365 to ServiceNow to be able to make this happen. I'm not going to also create it, so it's pre-created for the sake of simplicity, but I can show you that there is another automation, which is the onboard new employee onto automation, that in this case is also triggered whenever a new item is added to that ServiceNow form. And basically, this is based on this connection, and it's based on a specific table that we have there called new hire. Let me go back. So if I am the HR manager and I come here and I say, okay, so I have a new employee, it's called John Snow, it's starting to work today, employee number, and I'm going to say that they're going to start working at the engineering department, and I submit this to Automate 365. And let's go back to the connections. Let's refresh this list. And let's see if, well, both of them are already running. So I can see that the create new corporate event, it's already running, and it started triggering the creation of the SharePoint site, while at the same time, this other automation has already also started the creation of the team. Since I told you that this corporate event requires an approval, I'm going to show you that in the approvals notification center, so this is a chat that is automatically added to Microsoft Teams whenever someone is asked to approve a new request. And in this case, I have the HR Friday gathering here waiting for my approval, so I will approve it. And by doing so, this will trigger the automation to continue and to start the full process. Let me actually go back here and see if it's not started yet creating the team, but it should at any moment. So you can see that both the processes are running. What I will do is I will switch, because this can take a few minutes. So we'll still come back in a minute or two to see how things are running. But let me just jump into the presentation quickly. And if you have questions, just please let me know at any time. Let me share the other screen. Okay. There we go. So key takeaways that I would like you to take from the presentation. So 5 things. First one, number 1, self-service and governance, they're not mutually exclusive, right? So you don't have to choose between giving your users the speed they need, and you don't have to choose between maintaining control. You can actually have both. Number 2, you can connect to your existing help desk system or any other system. You don't have to replace your processes. So your teams, if they're already using ServiceNow or Jira or Zendesk or whatever, you can actually meet them where they are. Number 3, templates let you build once and enforce always. You can define what right looks like, and every single workspace inherits it automatically. Number 4, workspace integrity actually starts at the moment of creation. It doesn't start when you go and audit what's wrong. So if every workspace is born compliant, you can actually eliminate the cleaning up cycle entirely. And then number 5, you can actually start small. So you don't have to, kind of trying to tackle every single process in your organization. You can just pick, one simple process that needs one new channel, or just one simple template, one simple model of approval, you can prove the value of using Automate 365, and you can then expand. All right. I'm gonna briefly pause, and I'm gonna check how things are. Actually, before I do this, let me just tell you one thing and share with you one URL before I just close the slides. If you're ready to start today and to test Automate 365, you can go to app.bindtuning.com/automate, and you can start your free account with BindTuning. And with this said, let me just close the slides and see if we have any questions. Questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions, let me just briefly share my screen with you again, just to show you what happened in the meantime. So we have the Jon Snow following all the naming conventions channel already available within the HR onboarding team. And actually the Create New Corporate event is running, so it should be actually creating the SharePoint site as we go. If I go here to the automations runs, I should be able to show you the details of what it is doing. All right, so it's actually starting the creation of this new site. It may take a few more minutes, so you have to trust me on that one. Okay, everyone, so we're ahead of our time. If there are no questions, by the way, let me check the chat. Okay, clear. Awesome. So if we don't have any more questions, thank you so much for your time today. We'll send the recording in a few minutes. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.